And Lisa and Jill, welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast.
Thanks, Nick. We're excited to be here. Looking forward to talking with you and your audience about Barton Malow.
You bet. I'm looking forward to it as well. So one question I ask every single guest or guests now, you two are the first duo of a company that I've had on. I'm excited about that. I've brought on a group of C-suite professionals, but they were all from different industries. So the first for this, but I'm excited. The first question I ask every single guest at the very beginning is, what's one thing people might not know about you? So now both of you have to answer that question.
All right.
And hey, we'll go with Lisa first.
Yeah, game to start. So one thing many people, even my family members, might not know about me is that if I win the lotto today, I would love to do freelance photography. I've not practiced it. I don't have a skill in it, but I just absolutely love sunsets. And I know that sounds like a dating response to a dating app, but I just love sunsets and beautiful scenery. So that's what I would do if I hit the lottery.
Nice. You're going to jump back on the podcast, and then it's going to be, it's going to be the Sponsored by Lisa podcast.
There you go. Perfect.
How about you, Joe?
Gosh, we just had an icebreaker question in a meeting I was in. What would we do if we suddenly won big? I was actually going to buy property in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan on Lake Superior. But on the work front, I wanted to share something maybe that people don't know about me, particularly being in this customer experience focused podcast. Is I started my career in automotive safety engineering. And so I'm a mechanical engineer first in my career. And at that time, there were a lot of new technologies being developed. So it was really an exciting time to be in that industry and that kind of work. And so because of that, I was able to be sort of one of the early pioneers of side curtain airbags, and which you see now in just about all vehicles that come out. But at that time, we didn't even have a way, we didn't have an internal standard. We didn't even know what to call it. And we coined the term SABIC, S-A-B-I-C, for side airbag inflatable curtain. And at the time, I felt that we were, we created this term. And now I see that out there. So that was pretty cool. And we spent a lot of time testing sensors in what were called smart airbags at the time, so that an airbag would deploy with the appropriate amount of force, whether it was a small or a large occupant. So it was all pretty exciting stuff.
That is interesting. You should have had the acronym be, the last name or your first name. So you'd be like, see, that is part of me. Maybe the next side airbag version of it in the construction industry. It's coming back.
Next go around.
So speaking of the construction industry, Barton Malow, for those who don't know, or maybe that are not from Michigan or don't have a EV plant, tell me a little bit about Barton Malow and maybe your guys' individual roles.
Sure. Do you want to go first, Lisa? You want me to?
Sure, happy to start. So Barton Malow, so we are a construction firm, 99 years strong. We're actually celebrating 100 years next year, which is super exciting. So we're based in Michigan. Our headquarters is in Southfield. We have about 3,000 team members right now. We have 16 offices across the country. We're comprised of 4 entities, and 2 of our main entities, one is Barton Malow Company, and that is our union contractor. And through Barton Malow Company, we do a lot of automotive, energy, industrial type work throughout North America. And then we also have Barton Malow Builders, and that side of the business specializes in our commercial, healthcare, higher ed, K-12, sports, entertainment. I sit in Barton Malow Holdings, and in my role as Senior Director of People and Culture, I really have the true privilege of working on efforts aimed to improve our team member or people experience at Barton Malow. So I have an opportunity to work with a great group of professionals around team member engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, our people analytics, and our benefits. And we aim to have this integrated approach in recognizing that all those different components have an opportunity to have a positive impact on the people experience, not just team member experience, because we recognize that that experience extends beyond the borders of work. In oftentimes, so we refer to it not only as that team member experience, but those experiences related to the family and personal as well. So that true human experience. I will be celebrating my 25 years of Barton Malow in a couple of weeks, so super excited about that, and just think it's a great place to work.
Cool. Well, we're going to dig into all of that and looking forward to it. Jill, how about yourself?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I worked in automotive. So coming from outside of the construction industry, and I joined Barton Malow 4 years ago in a continuous improvement role. So because of that, I've been able to get involved in a lot of different areas of the organization. And after I started at Barton Malow, we took on the initiative of becoming a lean organization. And I mentioned that because I currently sit in that lean organization. And many of your listeners may know lean as a way to improve efficiency, which it is. But more importantly, it's a culture built on respect for people and continuous improvement. So now that I'm part of this lean organization, my focus is on training, supporting, coaching others to behave in lean ways and use lean thinking then as a way to problem solve. And I'm also involved in knowledge management. And so in knowledge management, we focus on the dissemination of information and the sharing and the socialization of knowledge, the documenting of that information or knowledge. So it's about the flow of knowledge within the organization and also creating an environment to facilitate that knowledge collaboration. So again, coming from outside the industry, one of the things that I'm able to do here at Barton Malow, and one of my favorite things to do, is to leverage my background in automotive consumer insights to then work in this customer experience space at Barton Malow that we call our Barton Malow experience. And I know that these things all sort of sound like these discrete activities or responsibilities, but for me, I see a really direct tie between our internal and external customer experience and knowledge management and lean thinking. It all fits together like a puzzle in my mind.
Yeah, well, in my mind as well. So I do want to dig into that Barton Malow experience, but one question I have for you, and I think it's interesting, when I did construction, wasn't very good at it, but I was good at putting in the time and the little muscle that I did have in the summers of in between college. But when it comes to the construction industry as a whole, what's one of the biggest challenges that the industry faces? And maybe Lisa, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I would certainly say from an HR people and culture perspective, staffing and just hiring and finding enough people to do the work is a problem that is not unique to Barton Malow, probably these days not unique to the construction industry. But certainly during, as a result of COVID and being in the pandemic, we have felt the pressures more. We've experienced what a lot of other organizations in the industry are feeling, that people are taking or have taken this opportunity to like reevaluate choices in their career, whether or not they're willing or wanting to travel, to be away from home, to be away from family. So certainly recruiting is a challenge that we are really working actively towards overcoming. And then coupled with that, the rate of growth for Barton Malow. So that further, further highlights that issue for us here at Barton Malow. And if I could just say quickly, in addition to recruiting, certainly for us is what we've leaned into even more during the pandemic, it's like mental health and the well-being of our team members. So we've had programs and resources available for team members prior to the pandemic, but certainly during the pandemic, we've seen through different insights that there's definitely has been and continues to be a need to be supportive of team members in that space.
Yeah, in just to pause on that real quick, I think that's so powerful because there is a need in the construction industry. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and the amount of my brother-in-law is in the engineering side at a construction company, and he's like, we're gonna struggle to start hiring more and more people because there is a need in as the city grows, we need to continue to bring on the right people for the right roles, but also to be able to retain them and keep them. And so it sounds like it's an industry or a problem across the industry. But one thing you touched on and I didn't really expect was the mental health side. How long has that been important, or how long how do you go about that process of somebody understanding that they have an issue to then doing something about that through HR or any other channel?
Yeah. And one of the things that and efforts that we've done over the years is be intentional about making incremental efforts to really take the stigma out of talking about mental health in the workplace. So whether it's having like virtual sessions about it, where we've had some team members who've raised their hands to say like, hey, I've struggled with anxiety and depression over the years and I've overcome it, but I want to be vulnerable enough and I'll share my story, share my experience. And things like that, and really leaning into providing resources, sharing communication with team members, even sending messaging home for family members, that it's okay first and foremost to talk about it. And then to know that there are resources that are available for team members. So we lean into like certainly like the National Mental Health Awareness Month that happens a couple times a year. We have team member networks that will rally around that and have coordinated efforts. So we couple that with like the resources so that when a team member has a need and is, whether it's talking to HR or, talking to our employee assistance program provider, just having access to those resources. So we've been intentional about not like thrusting it in the faces of our team members, but just subtly and just continuously letting folks know that one, it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to have those issues, but also to know that there's resources available for team members and families for that matter.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you're not making it taboo. It's not like, oh, you have mental health, that means that you have an issue. It's in a version, people are going through stuff, and it's okay to admit that you have a problem, and it's okay to get help. And so that's one of my takeaways. And Jill, anything else you want to add on the challenges?
No, I was just going to add to some of the comments that Lisa made and about mental health in general and at Barton Malow, and she sees it from that HR perspective. I see it from the outside team member perspective, and these actions that Barton Malow has taken are very welcomed. I've sat in on some of these webinars, and I feel that it's very the Barton Malow has done a great job taking the stigma away. It's okay to ask questions, and people feel pretty comfortable sharing, which has been really welcoming. On the challenges front, I will say that coming into construction from a completely different industry, one of the things that I didn't know about construction is that it's a very fragmented industry. And I think as we start talking about some of the things that we've done from a customer experience standpoint, that you'll see that that's definitely a challenge that we have to deal with in an ongoing way. And Lisa introduced Barton Malow and the age of the company and who we are. I would also just add that we We operate in a lot of different markets. We do a lot of different kind of work. We commercial work, industrial work, higher education work, entertainment and sports work. And we do that work in a lot of different geographies across the country as well, including a little bit of international work. And so because of that, it's just a very complex business and a very fragmented business, which makes delivering that customer experience all the more challenging.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. So this whole Barton Malow experience is just this super easy thing that you just design it and then you implement it right away. It's you just kind of, it's like the easy bake oven. You just set it and forget it.
That's
It's
right.
great. So I've had the opportunity to get to know Jill and new to Lisa, but the Barton Malow experience was pretty powerful when I first saw it, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about maybe explain it at a high level to the people, to my listeners.
Yeah, so we formally developed what we call our Barton Malow Experience Fundamentals about a year ago. And these fundamentals, they serve as a guide to all of our team members on expected behaviors, both from us as a company, but as individuals, and yeah, expectations of Barton Malow. And when we all exercise these behaviors, we create the culture, the experience for ourselves and our stakeholders. So ultimately, it's this Barton Malow experience. It's these behaviors that allow us to deliver on our value proposition.
And how has that improved the organization, either by culture, by hiring, by retaining that talent, by creating those behaviors per group?
Well, let me tell you a little bit more about the framework, and then I think we can tie that back to some of the improvements we've seen. But the challenge always is in the measurement, right? So our experience fundamentals, and it is for everyone. It's for our team members. It's for our clients. It's for our subcontractors that we work with. It's for our industry partners as well. And so those experience fundamentals, it starts with our purpose and our values. And Barton Malow's purpose and values have been well understood long before they were literally etched in stone in our building, in our headquarters building over 20 years ago. Our purpose is building with the American spirit, people, projects, and communities. And then our core values are integrity, partnership, and empowerment. And I recognize that our core values, you see integrity in lots of core values in lots of different industries. I will tell you, I think to me, again, having been at Barton Malow 4 years and spending a really long career in another place, that Barton Malow truly lives those values on a daily basis. And putting together the experience fundamentals helps our team members see what these expectations are of them in order to deliver on those values. So building on those values, that leads into our vision and then our behaviors, or what we call our commitments. And so in the commitments, we've outlined these tangible things, these tangible behaviors for our team members to use, that then tie back to those values and ultimately deliver on the value propositions. And we have different value propositions that are different for each of our customers or each of our stakeholders. And I use that word customer and stakeholder sort of interchangeably, because I like to say it doesn't matter which way the money is flowing, whether we are paying someone or we are being paid. They're still our customer or our stakeholder in a sense. And so we consider our team members our top stakeholder. And if we aren't acting out the appropriate behaviors and delivering on the team members' value proposition, our team members are then not able to deliver upon the value proposition for our other stakeholders, which again are our clients, our subcontractors, and our industry partners.
Yeah, there's so much to that. There's a lot of meat to that conversation, but I think there's I like how it's aligned with the mission, the vision, the purpose. You're just having integrity in it. You know, one of the things that we discussed is having a caring culture, and I think having a caring culture is important because, you know, at the end of the day, I want to know why people are there. And if it starts at the AHR level, is it because I'm trying to uh, increase my wages so I can afford private school? Is it because I'm trying to, you know, survive so I can go from an apartment to a house? Or is it something else? Like, what is the more that you understand that person's why, the more that you can help drive them towards that goal. But if they don't care about why they're there, and if it's not a purposeful time and they're not bringing that conversation together and sharing that with others, sometimes there's that divide of I am just a number. I am just 8,462 instead of Nick. And Nick that has right a family of 3 kiddos. And but the more that you actually care about the employee, the more that that employee will care for your customer because they understand their why. And if it's like you said, if it's them, if you guys are either making the payment or if it's or a payment's coming into you guys, it's all about that relationship. But what does that caring culture mean to you guys?
Yeah, I love all of that, Nick. And certainly for us, and part of our value proposition for the team member is that uh, like an environment that's caring in a high performing culture. And for us, caring is about being people centric first and foremost. And Jill described our core purpose, building with American spirit, people, projects, and communities. And we say this often, but in our branding and our communication of that core purpose, we see people, projects, communities. Not only is people first when we say it, when we see it, but it's always in the largest font. And that was by design, and that was very intentional because we recognize that we can't build the great projects that we do and serve the communities where we build those projects without amazing people who are highly engaged and who are high performing. So caring and being people centric is, going back to where it started in the beginning, is recognizing that we are more than work. Like we're not defined by our number. Like we're humans, we're people. We have needs, we have problems, we have accomplishment, success that go beyond the walls of work. One of the things that I often say is that when we go to work each day, whether we're working remotely and clicking on the computer or driving to work in the parking lot, like when we enter those doors, we turn on our computer, like we don't turn life off. Like I don't leave my problems that I may have been having with my child that morning or my spouse the night before. Like I don't leave it in the car. I don't like tuck it away. Like it comes with me every day, right? And it impacts how I might lean into work or lean out of work. It might impact how I might respond to a peer or to, a customer. So it's part of our mission is to meet people where they are and to have like resources, support that's available to team members. It might be a team member who is experiencing financial hardship. So we have support for that. It might be team member who does have a ailing parent, and we have caregiver leave support for that. So certainly we don't have everything for everyone, but we feel that we have done a good job of recognizing like what needs are and being able to satisfy most, and we are nimble, and we'll pivot and we'll make changes. But what I'm really proud of, what we do intentionally to be caring, to be people centric, is to meet people where they are in their journey of life first and foremost, before work even starts. So recognizing that plays a big part, and probably even a bigger part of feeling that you are connected to the organization, is feeling that you're cared about as a human being first.
So I'm so glad you said that because I typically just focus on customer service, well, and customer experience. I'm going to geek out about both, but as a consumer, a lot of times we try to take the face off of the representative who we're calling in or interacting with, and unfortunately, people try to let them have it. They turn on the Rocky soundtrack and say, "I'm gonna tear this person open because I'm frustrated. They didn't meet my expectation, and they treated that representative like a number." And vice versa, sometimes on the opposite side, they interact with the customer and they're putting on hold for 40 minutes and they have to repeat themselves multiple times and they're not actually treating them like a human being. They're treating them like another interaction.
Mhm.
And I love what you said because I believe it's 100% true is regardless of what side of the interaction we're on, we're bringing our whole self to that interaction. And sometimes we just need to shut up and have a little bit of empathy and listen to what's going on the other side and address of what's not being heard. I had the opportunity to interview a guy who was a international hostage negotiator, and it was really interesting. And the reason why I did it is because he talks about the importance of active listening and labeling what's not being heard. It sounds like, it seems like, it feels like you're going through this. He's not saying, "I'm sorry that you're in this spot. I'm sorry that you're robbing this bank," but it sounds like that you're not happy with where you're at. It sounds like you're in a tight spot. And when you're addressing of what's not being said, then that person feels known and valued, regardless if you're an employee or a customer, or for that matter, a subcontractor. And when you hear them out, then they feel known and valued, and potentially you can do something about it. But at the end of the day, that's all we really want as human beings is just to feel known and valued. And that's so I loved what you said there.
Yeah, sure.
One of the other things so we talked a little bit about the Barton Malow team experience, and I love that you guys focused on the people, the human beings on the team first. The next one and some of the other ones, but you talked about the clients and subtractors. So how are you guys focusing on those two after you focused on that member experience?
Yeah. So obviously, we can't just take what we do for our internal employees and flip it and do that externally. But it's something, it needs to be really thoughtful and deliberate, though, in the same way that we've been thoughtful and deliberate on the internal side. And you said something earlier, Nick, about the people business, and in this industry, you'll hear people say that it's not about building things, it's about people and relationships, and we're actually in the people business. So we've always had a focus on developing relationships, and also, like you said, with the hostage negotiator, it's about listening to these various customer stakeholders, making sure that they're truly heard, and then improving what we can improve for our stakeholders. And so that could be taking that feedback and fixing an immediate concern, or making a process improvement, or identifying one of our team members' learning opportunities through that feedback. And over time, we have listened to our customers and collected feedback from our clients in various ways. And this continues to evolve as well. Something else you were talking about, removing the face of the consumer. And maybe that works to our advantage, that we really can't do that in this business. We're a B2B service provider, and we know our customers, we know our clients. Perhaps we don't always know our end users of the buildings that we're constructing, but that is something that we try to do through the engagement with our clients, is understand what that client's need is, as well as understanding how that end user is going to actually use the facility that we're building. So in collecting this feedback that we do and using it, as I mentioned, to improve a number of different things, we're constantly evolving how we are going about listening to our customers as well. And so just a couple of weeks ago, we held a customer feedback process improvement event internally. So a Kaizen event, if we use the lean vernacular for that. And we worked through how we can improve the way we collect that feedback. And then it's not only about collecting it, but one of the really important things that we need to focus on is how we're sharing that feedback internally, so that everyone is on the same page and how we're acting on that feedback. So it's been a really thoughtful discussion and process that focuses on developing relationships. And I would say at its core, it's the external version of that internal caring culture. It's about caring for the people that we serve, caring for the people who put that work in place, and care for the process as well.
I'm loving this. And there's another similarity of a guy that I just recently interviewed, Howard Bihar. He was the previous former president of Starbucks for, I don't know, 15 years. And he said, we're not in the coffee business serving people, we're in the people business serving coffee. Yeah. And I like how you guys are constantly focusing back on the human. And there's that theme that I keep going back to. One of the things that you guys said earlier was how the construction business is so fragmented. And I think that is a challenge across a lot of organizations or a lot of industries, but specifically in the construction business, because there are so many different groups or specialties that you can get into. So how are you making sure that the experience is a consistent experience across the entire enterprise?
So it is not easy, and it is a constant challenge. And I don't think it's ever a challenge to be completely solved. You keep working at it. We do recognize the need to systemize consistency, and so that is something we've actively been working on. One of the things we've been talking about recently is defining all the things that we need to do internally to deliver consistently, both internally and externally. And to do this, we need everyone, singing from the same song sheet. No matter what area of Barton Malow you work, whether it's in an office or in a job site trailer or out in the elements where the building is being constructed. We also recognize that we need to be aligned across all of those geographic regions, the geographic coverage that we have, so that you have the same experience, whether you are in Michigan, where Lisa and I are, whether you're down in Florida, I'll be down in the Florida office later this week, or you're working on a project out in Arizona. And the things that need to be in place in order to deliver consistently, I don't know that they're necessarily unique to Barton Malow or even to the construction industry. So these are things like a consistent message and buy-in from the leadership team, standard ways of performing our work, and then that having those standard practices documented and training available around these topics. And it doesn't matter if those topics are procedural in how we construct the building or how we interact with the client, but consistency around all of those things that we need to do in order to get our work done. We also need subject matter experts. We have subject matter experts, but we need our subject matter experts to engage with others who are less experienced and support their learning. And one of the things that Lisa and I are both really excited about is this collaborating together to foster an environment of collaboration for all of our team members to socially share the why and how we do things in order to deliver on those value propositions. So
That's cool. I
Yeah.
like the why, bringing it back to the why. When it comes to the Barton Malow experience, and it's so easy to say, I'm focused on the human experience, I'm focused on the team member experience, I'm focused on the subcontractor experience. I think where a lot of organizations tend to get tripped up a little bit is around the measurement of that, and then from the measurement to the action, and aligning those with outcomes. But one question I had is how are you guys measuring the success of the experience today?
Yeah, and I'm happy to start. And if I can go back and piggyback off with Jill's last response a little bit about consistency and experience. So echo everything Jill said there, and I'll just add again, going back to that, the people experience. We lean into inclusion at Barton Malow, so we look to ensure that there's equitable opportunities and fair opportunities for advancement in the organization as relates to compensation, as relates to entry and pathways into Barton Malow. So inclusion, to me, it's it's equivalent to being consistent. So I just wanted to make that plug because I think that's an important aspect of providing a consistent experience to team members at Barton Malow. But in terms of measuring the experience of team members, hey, we love surveys at Barton Malow. So we love surveys as an opportunity to give team members a chance to provide feedback, provide sentiment about different experiences. One of the undertakings that we're working on now is developing surveys at different points, excuse me, pivotal points in the team member's journey. I'm sorry. So like, for instance, the new hire experience, we're doing research on what that sentiment is for team members at different points in the journey, at the 7-day, at the 30-day, at the 90-day, and following team members through that journey to find not only like the sentiment and what the experience is, but where there are some opportunities to make that experience for team members to follow. Another example of a pivotal moment is when a team member is on a medical leave. Like, that's a big moment in someone's life. So getting that feedback, all with the goal of, again, making that experience better for others. We definitely lean into the employee net promoter score. We do that on a quarterly basis. We actually just wrapped up one most recently. So we use that as a measure throughout the year to get feedback about just overall, what the level of satisfaction and the experience that team members have. We started last year doing going back to the more traditional, very comprehensive employee survey, and then using our ENPS surveys on a quarterly basis to measure how that work is done. So surveys is not the only way, but it's definitely certainly a method that we lean into to measure that experience of team members.
That's great. And then Jill, from your side, how about externally?
Yeah, so we do an NPS measurement. And as I mentioned, that we were just in a workshop a couple of weeks ago to talk about how that feedback is collected and what we do with it, and also talked about the measurement itself. Because we are in this B2B business, we don't have huge sample sizes of scoring to look at, and additionally, we have an off the charts NPS score, I will say, for Barton Malow with our external clients. So we look at these and say, oh, wow, these numbers are really good. Maybe we really need to be looking just more at the qualitative kind of feedback that we're getting. And so that's really our focus right now, and making sure that we can make improvements in the organization, in the processes, in employee training and learning through that feedback that we get. And like Lisa said, also looking at the sentiment of that feedback and building on that. I lost my train of thought there. There's something else I was going to say about it.
I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
I
One
know that it was, yeah.
one question I had for you around that sentiment is companies tend to have a really good experience on the front end. I'm going to go through this interview process. I'm going to tell you how amazing we are. I'm going to have a great onboarding process, but they don't, they just kind of push them into the real world and say, hey, now you're measured every quarter, you're measured every twice a year, you're measured once a year, but they're not actually truly trying to understand ways to reduce friction or create a better experience through that onboarding process. If it's 30, 60, 90, or 120 days past, and saying, hey, here's some points that maybe we can improve on to create a better experience through the members or even internally as we're starting to learn more about the subcontractors. So I appreciate you guys taking that additional step. Were you going to say something, Joe?
Yeah, a couple of things. So we, this is, I think, where the juxtaposition of customer experience and lean comes together. Lean is a culture of continuous improvement and respect for people. And that is the culture that we are continuing to build here at Barton Malow. And so when we do get feedback that indicates, oh, maybe there's an opportunity for improvement there, everyone in the organization really rallies around these opportunities for improvement. And we can bring together a cross-functional group of people rather easily and have a conversation, have some workshop, and figure out what are the steps that we need to take to make improvement around whatever that thing is. So I think this, customer experience and lean really comes together at that point. Additionally, we are working on some journey mapping right now, a client journey mapping exercise, and the output of that is going to help us better understand our clients' needs and expectations at each step of that journey, and then how the activities at each phase allow us to exercise those Barton Malow fundamentals and behaviors to further on our goal of delivering consistently. So it's really, that measurement is very qualitative in nature. One of the things, though, that we do measure and we look at is repeat clients. And so for us, I think those kinds of measurements are more important than sort of these absolute NPS kinds of scores.
Yeah, I would say the repeat clients, the client lifetime value is very valuable if you look for the long term. A lot of organizations sometimes just see in the snapshot of here's who we are and here's the experience that they have today, instead of understanding what that entire journey looks like. I could keep on going, but I have two more questions I can ask, and either one of you can jump in at the same time and answer both of them, or you can play paper, rock, scissors and figure out which one wants to answer which question. The first question I have for you is, what book or person has influenced you or both of you the most in the past year? So I'll pause there.
I'm happy to answer that, and I'm sure you are too, Lisa.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe. I love your the book that we've talked about.
Yeah. So it's a little over a year ago, I read, or rather I listened to, big listener of books, Two Beats Ahead. And it's by Panos Panay and R. Michael Hendricks. And so Panos is I think the SVP of Innovation at Berklee College of Music, and R. Michael Hendricks also is a assistant professor or something at Berklee College of Music, but is with IDEO. And so this book is not a customer experience book per se, but it's a book about what we can learn from musicians and that creative space that they work in, about problem solving and innovation and collaboration. And to me, I think so much of what we do in customer experience, it's not, and we talk at conferences and such about, where does customer experience live in your organization? And it's one of those things that can't live in just a single place, that it has to be the entire organization delivering upon, for Barton Malow, our experience fundamentals. And so collaboration is really key to that, and being innovative and thinking about how to serve your customers in new, exciting ways, I guess. So
I'm going to dig into that because I love analogies, and being a composer or a maestro, or is who is which one, and how do you make sure that we're all singing in tune, or the right music or the right sheet at the right time. So I'm digging into that one. Lisa, how about yourself?
When Jill and I talked about this, for me, not so much a book, but a person. Well, one of the most recent books I read, Jill and I were talking about, is more of a spiritual book. Mitch Albom, it was called Stranger in a Boat. It's supported me as I was going through this period of self-reflection in my life, and it also aligned with when I think about the person who had the most influence on me. And it was actually, or is actually, my daughter, my oldest daughter. I just going through some like really rough patches, and without going into detail, but just the amount of courage and bravery that she displayed really served as an admirable example for me. So I'll leave it at that. But just,
Yeah,
she really had a big influence on me.
that's cool. Well, thanks for sharing. The last question I have for you is, or both of you, is if you could leave a note to every single customer service and or customer experience rep, and it's going to hit everybody's desk Monday at 8 a.m., what would it say?
to me, it's listen. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth, so we should be listening twice as much as we're speaking. And I think it starts with listen to your employees, listen to your team members, as we've talked about. And when you understand that group, it's also then listening to the outside. So it's just listen.
And for me, it's pretty simple as well, around care. So maybe demonstrate care. But I understand it goes, for me, it would be both ways. Like we care about you and your experience, but for those individuals demonstrating care to those that they're interacting with is powerful as well.
Well, I look forward here in the coming years, the way that Barton Malow and you guys will continue to listen and care and understand the journey of that Barton Malow experience. So it's been a pleasure, and looking forward to seeing what you guys have in store here in the coming years.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
This was
Nick.
fun.